The night I sold my orchards for $48 million, my own daughter slipped something into my wine, and the only reason I'm alive to tell you about it is a 23-year-old waitress who couldn't keep quiet. I'd stepped out to the car park of the restaurant to take the call from my solicitor confirming the money had landed. When I came back through the doors, she was standing there, this slip of a girl with her tray pressed against her chest like a shield. "Mr. Calder," she whispered. "While your son-in-law had you looking at his phone, your daughter took a little brown vial out of her handbag and tipped powder into your glass. I saw it. I swear on my nana I saw it." My heart went like a road hammer, but 40 years of business teaches you one thing above all else: never let your face show your hand. I walked back to that table smiling. I knocked over the water jug, made a great clumsy fuss of it, apologized to everyone, and in all the napkins and commotion I turned the tablecloth and swapped my wine glass with my daughter's. 15 minutes later, halfway through her lamb, her words started slurring. Her head dipped. Then her eyes rolled white and she slid sideways off her chair onto the floor of the most expensive restaurant in Taranga. Before I tell you what happened in the hours after that, and believe me, the dinner was only the beginning, let me know in the comments where in the world you're listening from. And if you've ever learned the hard way that the people closest to you can be the ones you know the least, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story is for you. My name is Stanley Calder. I'm 68 years old, and for the last 3 years I've been a widower. That 48 million wasn't luck. It was 4 decades of my life. I started in 1986 with 11 hectares of scrubby land outside Tepuke that everyone said was too wet for kiwi fruit, a second-hand tractor that caught fire twice, and a wife who believed in me more than the bank ever did. Her name was Lorna. We built Calder Orchards together, block by block, season by season, until we were packing and exporting fruit to 14 countries. And through all of it, we never changed. I still live in the same weatherboard farmhouse we bought in 1989. I still drive a 12-year-old Hilux with a cracked windscreen I keep meaning to get fixed. The money went into the land, into the workers, into our girl. Our girl. Justine. Our only child. Lorna never trusted the man Justine married. Aaron Boss. Flash suits, flash watch, flash talk. He ran what he called a property syndication consultancy in Auckland, which as far as I could ever work out meant he spent other people's money and called it strategy. He doesn't look at Justine, Stan, Lorna told me one night on the veranda, her voice gentle but certain, the way it always was when she was right. He looks past her. At the orchard. At you. That man married a safety net. I laughed it off. I said, "Love, he's just ambitious, they're all like that now." God forgive me, I laughed it off. Lorna died 3 years ago. Cancer, 14 weeks from diagnosis to the end. And after she went, Justine drifted from me. Phone calls got shorter. Visits got rarer. When she did come down from Auckland she seemed nervous, always glancing at her phone, always defending Aaron before I'd even said a word about him. They lived a life I couldn't make sense of. European cars on lease, a launch moored at West Haven, holidays in the Maldives while I was still patching the same gumboots. Aaron talked big, but I'm a numbers man, always have been, and twice the courier misdelivered envelopes to my place that were meant for their old address. Final notices. A default judgment. The man was drowning, and dragging my daughter down with him. Then 6 months ago, the industry papers started leaking word that one of the big multinationals was circling Calder Orchards. And suddenly, like the tide coming in, my daughter and her husband were everywhere. Sunday roasts. Phone calls twice a week. "Dad, you shouldn't be handling all this paperwork on your own." "Dad, are you sure your affairs are structured right for after the sale?" Aaron knows people. I was so lonely in that quiet house, so hungry for the family I'd lost, that I let them in. I mistook their greed for love. That's the part that still shames me. Not that they fooled me. That I wanted so badly to be fooled. The sale went through on a Thursday. $48 million, unconditional. Justine rang within the hour, bubbling, insisting we celebrate properly, her shout, somewhere special. She booked the Pembroke room, white tablecloths, waiters and waistcoats, the kind of place where they scrape the crumbs off the table with a little silver blade. I wore the suit I'd worn to Lorna's funeral because it was the only one I owned. And you know the rest of the beginning. The phone call. The waitress. The vial. The swap. When Justine hit the floor, Aaron was up like a shot, and I watched him very carefully, and I will tell you what I saw. Before the panic, before the shouting for an ambulance, there was 1/2 second where his face showed nothing but pure calculation. He looked at his unconscious wife the way a man looks at a machine that's malfunctioned. Then the mask came down and he was all anguish. It must have been the scallops, he kept saying in the ambulance bay. She has a shellfish thing. She hadn't ordered scallops. I said nothing. I trembled. I let my hands shake and my voice quaver. I played the frightened old fellow to the hilt, because some animal instinct in me said, whatever this is, it is bigger than tonight, and your only advantage is that they think you're weak. Taranga Hospital, 10:30 at night. Lights too bright, air smelling of antiseptic and burnt coffee from the vending machine. Justine was stable, they got to her fast, and the duty doctor used a phrase that put ice in my spine, consistent with a significant dose of a sedative hypnotic. A sleeping drug. A heavy one. Aaron paced the corridor making phone calls in a low voice, and when he thought I was dozing in the waiting room chair, I heard 4 words through the gap in the door that I will hear until the day I die. It's still on. Reschedule. It's still on. What was still on? I'm an old man, but I'm not a stupid one. I rang the waitress. Manaya, her name was, Manaya Rikihana. She'd pressed her number into my hand at the restaurant with tears in her eyes, saying if I needed a witness she wasn't scared. Then I rang the only lawyer I've ever trusted, a half-retired litigator in Wellington named Selwyn Brock, a man I'd once watched take a fruit cartel apart in court like he was filleting his snapper. It was after midnight. He answered on the second ring. I told him everything. There was a long silence, and then Selwyn said, in that flat voice of his, Stan. Don't go home tonight. Whatever you do, don't sign anything, don't drink anything, and don't be alone with either of them. I'm on the first flight. By 5 the next morning we were in a borrowed office above a law firm on Cameron Road, and Selwyn's people had already pulled the threads. This is what they found, and I want you to sit with it, because I had to. The sedative wasn't meant to kill me. It was meant to break me. There was an appointment, made 3 weeks earlier, in my name but not by me, with a private geriatric psychiatrist named Dr. Eldon Pask, a man who, it turned out, owed Aaron's syndicate almost $400,000 from a failed apartment scheme. The plan was simple and it was filthy. Drug the old man at dinner. Let him collapse, confused and incoherent. Have Dr. Pask assess him within hours, while the drug was still in his system, and certify cognitive collapse. File for urgent welfare guardianship and a property order the same morning, with Aaron and Justine as appointed managers of my affairs. By the time the drug wore off, I'd be a ward, my $48 million would be under their control, and any protest I made would just be the ramblings of a confused old man, exactly what the file said I was. They'd even pre-drafted the enduring power of attorney. Selwyn's investigator found the document trail before the sun was properly up. My daughter's signature was already on it as witness. Dated. She'd signed it 11 days before she clinked her glass against mine and said, "To you, Dad. To everything you deserve." I sat in that office chair and I felt the pain arrive, not sharp, but heavy, like wet concrete setting behind my ribs. My own daughter. The little girl who used to ride on the spray trailer singing at the top of her lungs. I said it out loud, she's been planning this for months, and saying it made it real in a way the paperwork hadn't. Selwyn didn't offer me sympathy. I'll always respect him for that. He stood up, and the tiredness fell off him like a coat, and the shark came into the water. They've filed for an urgent hearing at 9, he said. They think they're walking in to roll over a confused old man. They have no idea they're walking into their own demolition. He got on the phone and started barking. He wanted everything on past, every debt, every prior complaint to the medical council, every patient he'd certified in the last 5 years and who'd benefited. He wanted Mania's affidavit sworn by 8. He wanted the restaurant's CCTV, and here's the thing about expensive restaurants, they have very good cameras, and the Pembroke Room's camera over table 14 had caught it all in beautiful high definition. The vile. The poor. Justine's eyes flicking to the kitchen door. The hearing lasted 19 minutes. I'll spare you the legal machinery, but I'll give you the moment. Aaron's lawyer, who I genuinely believe had been lied to as well, stood up and described me as a gentleman in steep cognitive decline, a danger to his own assets. And Selwyn rose, slow as Sunday, put the CCTV stills in front of the judge, then Mania's affidavit, then the toxicology report with my daughter's name on it, the drug she swallowed being the same drug bought, we could prove, on a card linked to her husband's company. Then the unpaid $400,000 connecting Aaron to Dr. Pask. The judge took off her glasses and looked at Aaron for a long, long time, the way you'd look at something you found under a rotten board. The application was dismissed. The file went straight to the police before lunch. Aaron was arrested 8 days later. Conspiracy, fraud, attempting to pervert the course of justice, and what the Crown called administering a stupefying substance, because it turned out the dinner wasn't the first time. They found traces in a teapot at my house from a lovely Sunday visit 3 weeks earlier, the day I'd felt so foggy I'd missed my Bulls afternoon, and Aaron had said, ever so kindly, getting forgetful, Stan? Maybe we should get you looked at. He got 6 years and 4 months. Dr. Pask lost his license and is awaiting his own trial. I felt nothing when I heard the sentence. Not joy. Not even relief. Just a great quietness, like a paddock after the harvest is done. Justine was a different matter, and this is the part people argue with me about, so let me tell it straight. She cooperated with the police. The picture that came out was uglier and sadder than simple greed. Aaron was $300,000 deep to people you don't want to owe money to, and he'd spent 2 years working on her, isolating her from me, feeding her a story that I was losing my mind anyway, that the certification was practically a kindness, that they were protecting Dad's legacy from Dad. She chose to believe it because believing it was easier than crossing her husband. And then, when the night came, she was the one who carried the vial in her handbag. She poured it with her own hand. Whatever she let herself believe, her hand did not shake. The Crown gave her a lesser charge. The judge gave her home detention and 2 years of supervision. And I gave her my own sentence. I went to see her once, at the rented unit she was confined to, all the leased toys gone, the launch repossessed, the house gone with it. She sat across from me, thin, gray around the eyes, and she said, Dad, how am I supposed to live? I have nothing. And I said, no, love. For the first time in your life, you have a chance. I told her how it would be. The will was changed. The trusts were sealed. She would not see $1 of mine, not now, and maybe not ever, that part was up to her, not me. But she would have a job, because I'd arranged one. Minimum wage, night shift, at the Lorna Calder House, the women's shelter and transitional housing center in Tauranga I'd just endowed with the first $5 million of the sale money, named for her mother. She'd start in sanitation. Cleaning. Every toilet, every floor, every room where women arrive at midnight with rubbish bags full of clothes and kids who flinch at slammed doors. You'll learn what nothing actually looks like, I told her, from people who never had a father's orchard to steal. People ask me, and they ask it angrily sometimes, why I didn't cut her off completely. She tried to drug you, Stan. She'd have signed your life away by morning tea. Let toxic people go. And look, I understand it, I do. But here's where I've landed, and you can disagree with me in the comments. Cutting her off completely would have been easier for me. It would have felt clean. But forgiveness and a second chance are not the same animal. I have not forgiven my daughter. I may never. What I've done is leave a door, one single door, a long way away, at the end of a very hard road, and whether she ever walks the length of that road is entirely her business. Lorna spent 28 hours of labor bringing that girl into the world. I will not pretend she was never born. But love without boundaries isn't love, it's an invitation, and I have finally, at 68, learned to stop sending it. 6 months on, I'm back in the old farmhouse. Same kitchen table with the burn mark from Lorna's casserole dish in 1994. Same pohutukawa out the front that we planted the year Justine was born, just starting to bud up red for Christmas. I was sitting in Lorna's old armchair with a cuppa when the Uda came up the drive, and out stepped Manaya Rikihana, but not in a waitress's waistcoat anymore. Sharp blazer, laptop bag, a folder of reports under her arm. Turned out the girl who couldn't keep quiet had been waitressing to pay her way through a commerce degree she'd had to drop when her mom got sick. I paid the fees, she finished top of her class, and now she runs the day-to-day administration of the Lorna Calder Foundation, and she is worth every cent of her salary and then some. "Morning, Mr. Calder," she said, spreading her papers on my kitchen table. "Foundation accounts are healthy, the second wing opens in March, and I've got the staffing report from the shelter." I asked the question I always ask. She found the line. Justine Caldervoss. Completed her 6th month. Moved off nights. Her supervisor says she stayed back 2 hours on Tuesday, off the clock, helping a new arrival settle her kids. I looked out the window at that old red tree for a while. "Good," I said. "That's good." Then I turned back to Manaya. "Right, love. Show me those projections." "I won't tell you I'm happy. I'll tell you I'm at peace, and at my age you learn the difference. And if you take nothing else from an old orchardist story, take this. Money doesn't change people, it reveals them, and it reveals them fastest at your dinner table. Watch the ones who only appear when the harvest comes in. Trust slowly, verify quietly, and never confuse being loved with being needed. Weakness invites the wolves, but pretending to be weak, well, sometimes that's how an old farmer counts their teeth. And remember that real strength isn't the car in your driveway or the number in your account, it's the calm to hold your nerve when your own blood betrays you, and the character to deliver justice without becoming cruel. What would you have done in my place that night, when the waitress whispered in your ear? And was the door I left open for my daughter mercy, or foolishness? Tell me below. I read every comment, usually with a cuppa, in Lorna's chair. I've had a lot of quiet mornings to turn this over, and the thing I keep coming back to is how every step of it followed from a choice somebody made, including me. None of this fell out of the sky. Aaron Voss didn't wake up one day a poisoner. He made a small dishonest choice, then a bigger one to cover it, then a bigger one again, until the only door left open to him was the one that led to my wine glass. That's how it always goes. Nobody leaps to the bottom, they take the stairs one rotten step at a time, telling themselves each step is the last. And Justine took those stairs right alongside him, telling herself a story about a confused old father so she wouldn't have to face what her own hand was doing. But I have to be honest, because a story like this is no good to you if I only point the finger outward. My own choices built the road too. I laughed off Lorna's warning because the truth was uncomfortable and the lie was warm. I was so lonely after she passed that I let 2 people back into my life on the strength of Sunday roasts and phone calls, and I called my own hunger for family a reconciliation. Loneliness is not a sin, but refusing to see what's in front of you because seeing it would hurt, that costs you. It nearly cost me everything. So if there's anything I'd want a younger person to carry out of this, it's 3 plain things, and they're not soft things. The first is character. Be the sort of person whose word holds when no one's watching, because a man's small honesties are the foundation everything else stands on, and Aaron is sitting in a cell right now because he never poured that foundation. The second is your head. Use it. I played the frightened old fool that night not because I was clever in some grand way, but because 40 years of reading ledgers taught me to keep my face still and my mind moving when everyone around me panics. Wisdom isn't knowing more facts, it's the discipline to wait, to verify quietly, to not show your hand until you've counted the cards. The third is backbone, and this is the one people skip. It took more grit to leave that one hard door open for Justine than it would have to slam it shut forever. Cutting her off would have been easy and clean, and it would have let me feel righteous. Leaving a long, narrow road back, one she has to walk every meter of herself, with no shortcut and no inheritance waiting, that took everything I had. I don't know yet if she'll walk it. Last I heard, she stayed back 2 hours off the clock to help a frightened mom settle her kids, and I won't pretend my chest didn't tighten when Manaya read me that line. Maybe it means nothing. Maybe it's the first meter. That part was never mine to control, and learning to let it go is its own kind of peace. What I do know is that money doesn't make people good or bad, it just turns the lights on so you can finally see who's been standing in your kitchen all along. Watch who arrives with the harvest. Trust slowly. And build the kind of character, the kind of mind, and the kind of nerve that means when the worst night of your life comes, you're the steadiest one at the table.